Hello, I am Sister Carolyn Sur, a school sister of Notre Dame, and I am going to be speaking to you about Tai Chi. I'd like to say a few things about the text that I speak with the 18 movements of Tai Chi. While Tai Chi yoga is given to us by the Asian culture, I will be incorporating some of the spirituality from my Western spirituality background, which I am grateful to have been exposed to at St. Louis University and through the rule of the School Sisters of Notre Dame. The Asian movements come to us initially from China and were picked up by our sisters from Japan, with whom we connected in a very formal way after World War II, when we went to build schools, an elementary, a secondary, and a college in Kyoto, Japan. So some of the movements have been refined by a Japanese sister, and some of them have been refined by Dr. Lamb, whose work has come to me through St. Mary of the Woods College in a week-long workshop. Mostly, I facilitate Tai Chi, and I do it with other people rather than teach the refinements of the movements as would Dr. Lamb. I will talk about symbols from my Catholic background that are incorporated into these Asian landscapes, such as water, sky, clouds. And I will talk about how I have used these symbols and expanded them through my Western spirituality. The emphasis, of course, is on breathing. And in breathing, we calm ourselves down in order to be aware and conscious of the divine presence in our universe. The first movement is waving hands by the sea. It is a very simple movement of the wrists. We believe that we all emerge from the water in our mother's womb to be the creatures that we are today. So we reverence, in the words of St. Francis of Assisi, Sister Water, when we are waving hands by the sea. In waving hands by the sea, we change it to waving hands by the Mississippi River. And we honor the Native Americans who traveled this land and whose bones are buried beneath us. We reverence all of creation. The second movement is expanding chest on the mountain. And we open our arms wide and embrace the universe. And breathe deeply when we bring our hands toward our sternum. And we exhale when we open our arms, expanding chest on the mountain. Grateful for each breath of life that we so take for granted in our unconscious moments of sleep. The third motion is painting the rainbow. We often use the rainbow to remind us of the mysteries of science. So painting the rainbow is a leaning toward each side, creating a semicircle from the vertical position. And some of the minority groups that are oppressed by society have used the rainbow as a sign that we are all God's children, a very diverse humanity. The fourth movement is parting the clouds. So here we reflect upon the tradition of darkness and light being the contrast of the yin and the yang. Our Western culture reminds us in the times of the late Middle Ages, John of the Cross was the first to have coined the phrase, the dark night of the soul. And we know that contrast and variety in our culture is good. We are conditioned to the rhythms of day and night in sleeping and rising each morning. When I was learning Tai Chi, I remembered my first 4 movements as one group together where I was doing fluid motions of from the sternum and from mostly with the hands. And I thought of it as the water, the clouds, the rainbow, the sky, and I thought of nature images as ascending from the sea. For these next 5 movements, I think of having a box around me where I step out for the 5th movement, which is the movement weaving silk in the air. So I imagine that from where I'm standing, there's a diagonal to the corner of the box around me, and I lean out toward that corner to weave silk in the air. Here I like to think of all things soft, and I like to think of people whose lives are struggling with problems and heaviness, and I push healing energy out to my friends and those who have asked me for prayers. Healing energy in weaving silk through the air. The 6th movement is called rowing the boat by the lake. And here again, you can imagine a body of water that is familiar to you. Perhaps you have vacationed by a lake, and just the image of standing on the shore of the lake brings to you a calmness of spirit. So rowing the boat by the lake is a motion of repetitiveness. It happens when you're crocheting, it happens when you are doing some motion in dance, where your mind doesn't have to think of what to do next. In rowing the boat by the lake, I sometimes like to image the apostles out on the sea, where Jesus walked toward them and calmed the waters. Now, most of the time we're not on a lake when our spirit needs to be calmed. We can be anywhere. But rowing the boat by the lake can give us the assurance that we will be rescued by someone through the divine energy. The 7th movement is Sage Presents Peach. And here we concentrate on having a beautiful peach in our hand. And it's sometimes visualized as the sage offering us words of wisdom that we find in our sacred texts, be those the Hebrew scriptures, the Christian scriptures, or anything from spirituality that is inspirational to us. Sage presents peach. I sometimes reiterate the gifts of the Spirit: wisdom, understanding, counsel, strength or fortitude, knowledge, reverence, which we term often as piety, and awe of the Lord. So one attitude in our being in the presence of God is to bring ourselves to a feeling of awe. The eighth movement is gazing at the moon. So one arm makes a right angle and the other arm comes underneath the elbow, and the body, to the degree that it is capable, twists and looks over the shoulder. I frequently remind people that even though we are doing Tai Chi often in the daytime, that they should remember the beauty of the night sky. And in that eighth movement, remember to observe the evening sky when the stars are out and the moon is visible. And to again pause at the mysteries of the universe and praise God for giving us protection on this planet Earth with water and air and light. The ninth movement is an image from our Asian culture, and the movement is titled "Wind Rustles the Lotus Leaf." The lotus is a symbol in Buddhist philosophy of all things good. I use it as a gesture of emphasizing the wind as much as the lotus leaf. In my doctoral dissertation, Hildegard of Bingen uses the phrase, "I am a feather on the breath of God." So as we skip our hand in that semicircle in front of us, I ask people to allow God, the divine energy in their lives, to move them and to go with the flow of life, like a feather on the breath of God, not resisting the call of our brothers and sisters in need, but giving ourselves with the energies with which we are blessed. The next four movements all involve water in some way. We know that water, when it evaporates, becomes cloud. And the 10th movement is cloud hands, where we move the palms of our hands from one side to the other of the body, past the hands in front of the abdominal area, in front of our chakra. We are sending good energy to our core. And I remind people that we were nurtured in our mother's womb. And so we should pray for our mothers in gratitude that our mothers made decisions to eat properly and that we have emerged with sufficient health and consciousness to be grateful to those who have birthed us and nurtured us. The 11th move is scooping the sea and viewing the sky. So we bend down to the degree that we are capable of maintaining our balance, and we open our arms to the sky above us and pause in the wonder of the cloud, of the blue, of the contrast. I also think of gathering and letting go. When we are called to leave one job and take on another, when friends whom we have loved come in and out of our lives, I think of it as gathering and letting go, scooping the sea and letting the sea fall through our fingers as we view the sky. The next movement, number 12, is rolling with the waves. We have a modern phrase that we say, let's go with the flow, not be so resistant to what happens in life, but go with the flow. So we push our hands down the femur of our body and we rock back and forth, rolling with the waves. So many of the beautiful mathematical structures, the chambered nautilus, the spiral, the DNA, involve a flowing movement of rolling along, rolling with the waves. So it is a kind of saying amen to what is going on in our life. The next movement, 13, it's called Baby Dove Takes Its First Flight, is a movement where we get to relax a little bit, center ourselves, and be rather quiet. I've had many years of my life where I've taught teenagers, and I pray for them when they take the car out for the very first night, and their parents hope that they return alive and healthy, both the car and the student, their child. So Baby Dove Takes Its Flight is a simple flapping of the wrists. The 14th move is called the dragon. And if I'm doing Tai Chi with someone for the very first time, I say this movement requires a little more coordination than all the others. So we step out and we punch a boundary line. And then we use our elbow as the center of the compass and we make a circle. So I like to think of the dragon, that movement, as setting boundaries and not letting people push us around, not letting people walk over us, and using this movement as a kind of an examination of conscience, whether I have walked over someone or taken someone for granted. The 15th movement is called Wild Goose Takes Its Flight. So we've set our boundaries and now we're free to move within the structure. So we scoop down and we open up our arms, sort of an angelic motion, if we could be angels. Frequently, when I'm doing Tai Chi next to the Mississippi River, I see and hear birds in the background, or even a formation of geese, if it's the right time of the day. So the 16th movement is called the windmill, and we simply swoop our arms around us in a circle and then reverse that for the windmill. And at this time, I pray for our environment, that the wind that we inhale would be healthy, And we reverence our good Mother Earth by not trashing it. So the windmill, it's a fun movement to just let your body fly free. The 17th movement is called Child Bounces the Ball in the Sunlight. The person who taught me Tai Chi the first time said we ought to do this with a smile on our face. So we pretend we're stepping or skipping, and our arms flow in alternate patterns to our feet. And we imagine a big red ball in front of us and the carefreeness of our childhood, which it is good to go back and remember every day, because in the end, all of us are still children in the eyes of God. The 18th movement is called Scooping Up the Earth's Fragrances. And here I often image myself coming home from school into my mother's kitchen, because several times a week she would have fresh bread baking or fresh out of the oven. And one of my favorite aromas is fresh bread. I also think of the herbs in nature that I enjoy eating as I scoop up the earth's fragrances and let them go into the universe. So it's one final reminder to inhale deeply and exhale slowly, not wanting to let these life-giving fragrances go, but knowing that my 18th motion, and therefore Tai Chi, is coming to an end. So before I finish Tai Chi, I put my right hand behind me and I make a circle to my waist. And I put my left hand behind me and I let that hover over my right hand. And I weave together then the yin and the yang of life, knowing that these 15 or 20 minutes have been life-giving, relaxing, a God moment for me in my day. But I must then be about life's tasks and responsibilities. So with gratitude, I swoop my arms upward in a namaste prayer position and bow to the people that I am doing Tai Chi with, and to our good Mother Earth, the universe, beyond our planet. And am grateful for another day of living and loving and breathing and moving. Amen.